What if I told you Meghan Markle revealed everything we needed to know about her years before she ever joined the royal family? Not in an interview, not in a scandal, but in a single blog post. Today, we're breaking down the one sentence that exposes a pattern of superiority, veiled judgment, and performative feminism, long before the crown ever came into play. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. Today, we are going into a statement that Meghan made on her blog, The Tig, that I have read before and I've been meaning to talk about it, but it was actually discussed in an article released recently. The article is titled Meghan Markle's Brutal Eight-Word Dig During Rant About Princess Catherine's Wedding. The comments from one of Meghan Markle's blog entries, which was written years before she met Prince Harry, have now surfaced. Meghan Markle appearing to make a dig at the royal family as an old blog post of hers resurfaced. The Duchess of Sussex recently unveiled her rebranded lifestyle company as ever, following trademark complications with the original name, American Riviera Orchard. We don't we don't care about this, but the part I want to mention is that there are past comments from her previous blog, The Tig, that have resurfaced. In a 2014 post, years before she met Prince Harry, Meghan reflected on the media frenzy around William and Catherine's 2011 royal wedding. Writing in an eight-word dig, Meghan says, "Grown women seem to retain this childhood fantasy." She added, "Just look at the pomp and circumstance, the royal wedding, and endless conversation about Princess Kate." I really want to break down what it is about these two sentences that rubs me the wrong way. And I'm going to give you examples that you may have experienced this type of situation in your own life. The first sentence is this one: grown women seem to retain this childhood fantasy. And there are three reasons why this bothers me. The first is that it's a veiled insult. At first glance, Megan's comment about this seems like a harmless observation, but if you sit with it for a moment, it becomes clear. This isn't just commentary, it's judgment delivered with a smile. She is not saying some women enjoy royal traditions and I don't. She is implying only immature women still believe in that fantasy. This isn't a difference in taste, it's a covert attack on character cloaked in self assured detachment. That's what makes it veiled because there's no direct insult, no overt cruelty, just a subtle jab that sounds observational but lands like a condescending eye roll. It's the kind of dig that lets the speaker deny it entirely. If you call it out, you risk being labeled sensitive or paranoid. And that plausible deniability, that's classic narcissistic communication. This type of veiled insult serves a purpose. It lets the speaker stay in control of the narrative, sound intelligent or ironic, and avoid responsibility for the emotional harm they cause. And most importantly, it allows them to devalue something meaningful to others without ever having to say, "I'm jealous, I'm hurt, or I don't understand." That's why this line is so powerful. It's not just snark, it's a signal meant to elevate the speaker and subtly degrade anyone who disagrees. It's the soft power move of someone who doesn't want to be perceived as cruel, but very much wants to establish dominance. So let's bring it home. How would this look like to you? So, a veiled insult would be in a tone that sounds neutral but is meant to cut. Let's say you have a coworker commenting on someone's promotion. They could say, "Wow, it's so inspiring that the company is willing to take risks on people who are still learning." What's happening here? The statement sounds supportive, but it's actually undercutting the person's competence. It's not a direct insult, but it leaves the listener wondering, was that a compliment or a dig? And if confronted, the speaker can easily backpedal. Great that they're getting a chance. The next reason it bothers me is because it assumes superiority without having to say it. Underneath the polished tone of the comment is something even more strategic. It's posturing. By referring to women who still believe in fairy tales or royal weddings as holding on to a childhood fantasy, Megan isn't just suggesting that they're naive. She's placing herself above them. The message isn't neutral. It's, I've outgrown what you're still foolishly clinging to. I'm more enlightened because I don't need those illusions anymore. It's not about taste or belief, it's about status. She doesn't have to say, I'm better. She just implies that if you're still into love stories or tradition, you're behind. It's a subtle hierarchy. She's positioning herself as more self aware, more emotionally involved, more grounded in reality. And that's a common narcissistic tactic to elevate one's self worth, not by celebrating personal growth, but by belittling what others still find beautiful. It's essentially saying, I'm above what you love. People with narcissistic tendencies rarely say, I'm better than you outright. Instead, they create contrast and let the audience fill in the blanks. They diminish what others care about to appear wiser, deeper, freer. By dismissing the appeal of romance, pageantry, or symbolism, Megan crafts a new persona. I don't need fairy tales to feel powerful. I've transcended that stage of womanhood. It's a form of emotional distancing designed to imply maturity. But in reality, it's a backhanded way to say, if you still believe in it, I'm way ahead of you. So, how is this tactic working for Megan? When people feel let down, when something doesn't give them the satisfaction they expected, the ego often rushes to protect itself. So, instead of admitting, I wanted this and it disappointed me, or I didn't feel chosen the way I thought I would, it's easier to frame it as, it was never worth it. Only shallow people believe in that anyway. The emotional sleight of hand is about image protection, not truth. So when Megan mocks the fantasy, she's not rejecting tradition from a place of grounded peace. She's rejecting it with contempt because it didn't fulfill her the way she hoped it would. And when contempt is disguised as growth, that's not healing, that's performance. This is how narcissism often sneaks in, not through grandiosity, but through quiet invalidation masquerading as self possession. So, how could this look in one of our day to day lives? So let's say you're talking to someone about why they don't watch reality TV. They say, I used to watch that kind of stuff, but I guess at a certain point you just start craving content that feeds your mind. What's happening here? They're not technically insulting people who still watch it, but the implication is clear. I'm more sophisticated than people who enjoy that. It creates a subtle hierarchy. I used to be like you, but I've evolved. I remember very vividly how I experienced this with my ex husband, who I found out later is a narcissist. Towards the end of our marriage, he started making fun of me liking Harry Potter. Now, I was into Harry Potter at the time because I ended up getting a job that was further away from home and he wasn't willing to move. So I had to entertain myself on this long drive. I got all the Harry Potter audiobooks, and that's why I was really into it at that moment. I literally was listening to it because he was not flexible in our moving. And in a way, like you see how Megan wants to constantly put Harry down. My ex had to put me down, and that was what he could cling to. Oh, well, you're still into Harry Potter. Meanwhile, dude was watching Lord of the Rings. He was into Star Wars. Like, please. It's like, it's hypocrisy, complete hypocrisy. Okay, let's get into the third point. This is using feminism as a mask for envy. This third layer, I believe, is the most harmful because it weaponizes empowerment to disguise resentment. When Megan says grown women holding on to that childhood fantasy, she's echoing early feminist critiques of how fairy tales and media condition girls to equate value with marriage, beauty, and being chosen. So, on the surface, this sounds like a progressive stance. I've deconstructed that toxic conditioning. I'm not that kind of woman anymore. It reads like a feminist awakening, but it's not. It's not about freedom of thought. It's about mocking the women who still find value in dreams she no longer relates to. True feminism is about liberating femininity, not shaming it. It's about choice, not scorn. So when someone rolls their eyes at royal traditions, pageantry, or romantic dreams as childish, they're not empowering anyone. They're using feminism as a shield for elitism, a way to look down on others while sounding enlightened. And the real irony, Megan got the fantasy. She wore the tiara. She walked the aisle. She stood on the palace balcony. So, how is this something that you can see in your own life? It could be someone talking about why they don't want a wedding. Honestly, I just think weddings are such a patriarchal spectacle. I don't need a bunch of people validating my love. What's happening here? On the surface, this sounds empowering, even progressive, but let's say this person has always wanted a big wedding and couldn't afford it, or their partner doesn't want one. The disdain they're projecting onto the concept of weddings is not coming from feminism, it's coming from envy and disappointment. And that's the difference. Where is this coming from? What is motivating these kinds of statements and these kinds of feelings to be said? So it's basically using this ideology, as a mask to avoid sitting with personal hurt, and in the process, it shames others who still want it. So I wanted to summarize these 3 points. How that first part of the sentence is, it sounds like a veiled insult, assumed superiority, and feminism as a mask for envy. And although some may read this one sentence and not think it's a big deal, it does feel very cutting because it's passive aggressive judgment, because it establishes hierarchy, and it's using feminism to hide shame, redirect envy, and shame feminine desire. Let's go to the second sentence that Megan said. She said, just look at the pomp and circumstance surrounding the royal wedding and the endless conversation about Princess Kate. I know you all see the envy right there, but we're going to break it down. The first part of that sentence, just look at. It's like a performative eye roll. This is not a neutral phrase. It's dripping with tone, the kind that doesn't even need a smirk to land like a slap. Just look at the pomp and circumstance. It's not an invitation to observe, it's a cue to mock. She is not saying, this kind of tradition is fascinating. She's saying, can you believe people are still impressed by this? It's a social signal, like nudging someone next to you in a theater and muttering, wow, they really think this is profound. It's not curiosity as condescending. It frames tradition and formality as something for other people, the easily amused, the naive, the uncultured. This is how someone attempts to separate themselves from the crowd, not by disagreeing, but by ridiculing. So, how could you experience this? Let's say you're excited about your carefully decorated holiday table. It's festive, colorful, it's meaningful to you. A relative walks in and says with a smirk, wow, just look at all this. Did Martha Stewart help you? Cue the eye roll. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. It's a mocking invitation to view your joy as excessive or try hard. Suddenly, something you were proud of now feels embarrassing. And it stinks because it turns your creativity into a punchline. You weren't just decorating. Now you're performing for the approval of someone who's already decided it's cringe. The next part, this pomp and circumstance. I mean, yes, royal ceremonies are full of tradition, structure, and visual spectacle. That's the point of monarchy. Symbolism, ritual, continuity. These events aren't casual, they're deliberately grand. But by reducing all of that to pomp and circumstance, Megan isn't just commenting on the visuals, she's implying it's all hollow. The phrase has a very specific energy: empty flair, surface level theatrics, a lot of noise for no real meaning. She's not only mocking the institution, she's mocking the emotional response people had to it. That's the real insult, not to the monarchy, but to the people who cared. Here's how you may have experienced this in your own life. You post about your graduation, a moment you worked several years for, you're wearing your cap and gown, your family's there, it's emotional. A friend comments, all that fuss for a piece of paper. It's subtle, but it's loaded. They're not directly criticizing you, they're criticizing the symbolism of the event, which is something you were emotionally and intellectually and physically and academically invested in. It stings because it frames your milestone as hollow or overhyped. You weren't asking for applause, you were just sharing pride, and they met it with dismissal disguised as perspective. And now, this is where the mask really slips when Megan says, endless conversation about Princess Kate. She's not just critiquing the public's fascination with royalty, she's clearly highlighting how much attention Princess Catherine has received and how long it lasted. She doesn't say Catherine was beautifully welcomed. People really loved her look. She says endless conversation. That's not admiration, that's exasperation. It implies overexposure, boredom, and when will they stop talking about her? This is a classic envy move. When you can't compete with someone's praise, the next best option is to frame the admiration as overkill. It's not she didn't deserve it, it's enough already. She's not indifferent to Catherine, she's irritated by how much the people love her. She's not questioning the institution, she's undermining the women who were celebrated within it. How could this look in your own life? Let's say you've been talking about your engagement and you're glowing. You share that your fiance planned a thoughtful proposal and everyone's been so sweet and congratulatory. One person chimes in and says, "Oh, people are always going on and on about engagements. It's like we get it, you're getting married." They're not critiquing you directly, but they're clearly irritated by the attention you're getting. Instead of celebrating with you, they downplay your joy and label it as overkill. They're not bored, they're bitter. All of this, the just look at, the pomp and circumstance, the endless conversation, this is all about positioning. Megan isn't just critiquing the wedding, she's critiquing the entire ecosystem of admiration, performance, and public reverence because she didn't get to control it. It's not just a jab at royal culture. It's a jab at femininity expressed through tradition, women who are universally loved, and institutions that don't revolve around Meghan. This was a covert dig at the monarchy, at the public, at Princess Catherine, and at the entire concept of being moved by something you didn't create yourself. So let's take this a little bit deeper. This covert dig is a hallmark of something more dangerous: malignant narcissism. Malignant narcissists don't attack openly, they weaponize charm, sarcasm, and faux modesty. And what makes them so dangerous isn't just what they say, it's what they often say with a smile. They hide harm inside politeness, superiority inside jokes, and contempt inside compliments. That's not just personality, that's manipulation. And that's what I want to talk about next. What makes malignant narcissism so dangerous? This is not just someone being self absorbed or attention seeking. It's a dark fusion of multiple toxic traits that amplify each other and create a uniquely harmful pattern. It combines a couple of different things. The first is narcissism. I must be admired at all costs. The core traits include grandiosity, need for excessive admiration, a sense of entitlement, lack of empathy, and exploiting others for personal gain. On its own, this already leads to manipulation and control tactics like love bombing, gaslighting, and smear campaigns. But malignant narcissists don't stop at admiration. They need dominance. And that's where the next traits come in. The second is they have antisocial traits. I don't care who I hurt. The core traits of this include deceitfulness, impulsivity, disregard for others' rights, and no remorse or guilt. This adds a layer of predatory behavior to narcissism. While some narcissists just want validations, malignant ones are willing to lie, exploit, or destroy others to preserve their image or win power. It's not just emotional carelessness, it's intentional harm. The third is paranoia. Everyone is out to get me, so I'll strike first. The core traits include suspicion, reading malice into neutral situations, extreme sensitivity to criticism, and hypervigilance. This makes malignant narcissists reactive, defensive, and dangerous. They interpret any challenge, even subtle disagreement or someone else being praised, as an attack. So they go on the offensive with veiled insults, public smears, and covert sabotage. Their mindset is, if you admire them, you're betraying me. And finally, there's sadism or covert aggression. It feels good to make others squirm. This is where it gets truly chilling. Malignant narcissists derive pleasure from making others feel small, confused, or ashamed, especially if it boosts their own sense of control. They deliver covert digs, undermine confidence, humiliate in ways that look accidental or justified. They won't often yell or explode. They'll smirk while you unravel. As I was reading through the four of these, this perfectly describes my malignant narcissist stepmom. 100%, this is exactly who she is. And it's these characteristics that I actually see in Megan. I can think of specific examples for every single one of these that I believe Megan has done. And this is why the comparison to me of Megan to my malignant narcissist stepmom is right on. And of course, this is all in my opinion. So, how do these traits combine? This is a person who feels entitled to constant admiration, will harm or manipulate others to keep that admiration, sees anyone else's success as a threat, and actually enjoys taking others down emotionally. That's malignant narcissism. They're not just insecure, they're strategically cruel. They'll twist reality, weaponize ideology, and shame others for feeling joy, all while maintaining a polished, charming exterior. They don't just want attention, they want the last word, the final spotlight, and the only throne in the room. It's not just about needing admiration, it's about controlling narratives, punishing perceived slights, and dismantling others to protect the fragile ego. So, how does this connect to what we've been talking about? The first is the covert dig. Covert digs are a hallmark of malignant narcissists because they undermine someone's confidence, erode self worth gradually, and they let the narcissist wound others while maintaining deniability. It's a power play. It's the narcissist's way of saying, I don't like how people admire you, so I'll plant a seed of doubt. Whether it's about someone's appearance, achievement, or relationship, the goal is to take them down a notch without looking like the bad guy. The second is dismissing joy. Malignant narcissists can't tolerate it when other people are happy, admired, or emotionally open, especially if it's something that the narcissist secretly wanted and didn't get. So, what they'll do is they'll belittle public admiration, and she did that with this endless conversation about Kate, dismiss meaningful tradition as an empty spectacle, with pomp and circumstance in her statement, and they frame joy as naivety or immaturity. It's covert aggression. They don't attack directly, they poison the well. If they can't have admiration, they'll convince everyone it was never worth having. The third is superiority framing. What looks like calm detachment, like I'm above it all, is a protective strategy. Malignant narcissists are deeply threatened by anything that makes them feel less than. So instead of admitting envy or sadness, they posture as enlightened. They flip the script so that others are shallow, basic, or deluded. It's not just self protection, it's offensive ego warfare. Their goal isn't peace, it's control of the emotional and social terrain. And finally, there's targeting femininity, which is projection and destruction. In this case, Megan's dismissive framing of royal admiration, Catherine's spotlight, and traditional femininity isn't just snark. It's a narcissistic attack on what she couldn't master. Malignant narcissists often rage against traits they tried to embody but they couldn't sustain. They turn on the image they once wanted to be, and they smear others who have succeeded where they have failed. So if the fairy tale didn't deliver admiration or emotional fulfillment, they don't just walk away from it, they burn it down for everybody else. So, some final thoughts. Malignant narcissists don't just want to win, they want to rewrite the story, control the spotlight, and ensure no one else shines unless they permit it. So, when someone scoffs at your joy, minimizes what you care about, frames themselves as above your dreams, it's not just passive aggressive behavior. It's a warning sign of someone who uses manipulation, contempt, and narrative control to maintain power. And that's not just narcissism. That's malignant. So when Meghan mocked the royal wedding fantasy in 2014, it wasn't just a random comment. It was a calculated move, a narcissistic defense against something she couldn't yet have. But once she did get it, something changed. Because for a malignant narcissist, the fantasy isn't just something to reject, it's something to rewrite, perform, and eventually blame. In part two of this video, I'm going to break down how Megan went from mocking the fantasy to becoming the center of it and what that tells us about malignant narcissism in action. So, if this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. Wait for the part two that's coming. I'm very excited to show that to you. I hope that you truly enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye, everybody.